The only Christmas tree worth having this year is the Tree of Evolutionary Life, now in its limited edition winter form. Grab this limited time poster now while you can. It depicts every single Pokemon and how they'd be related to each other, including the all-new Melmetal. Using the links below, grab one for yourself or for a friend.
Hey Pokemon Masters, Bugkeeper Toby here, and welcome back to my lab for one more bonus episode in relation to the Evolutionary Tree of Life. It's the big project that I undertook. 12 episodes, there's a bunch of bonus episodes as well. This is one of them. And this is talking about one of my favorite bits of Pokemon lore, one of the most obscure bits of Pokemon lore, the unconfirmed and debated Pokemon. These are Pokemon that show up in the TV show, in the games, in comic books, that aren't known to be any Pokemon that we know of. That said, they potentially exist in the exact same world as Pokemon, so let's talk about them. Like, for example, my absolute favorite one, Slowbro's shell. This is something I've been wanting to talk about for ages. It appears on Slowbro, Mega Slowbro, it appears on Slowking's head, and according to Pokemon lore, this is a Shelder. Except it doesn't look like a Shelder. So what gives here? Well, my explanation for this within the world of Pokemon, within the evolutionary tree of Pokemon, that this is Shelder's additional form. Shelder has an extra form. We've seen forms in the world of Pokemon. I actually don't know why this is all that surprising, but this is the form that it takes when it attaches itself to a Slowpoke. There is a doll that Brock picks up at some point in the show. It's a doll of a bear, so I would suspect it would be related to the bear Pokemon like Ursaring and Snorlax and Beartic. Actually, can't forget about Pangoro. I suspect it's some kind of ancient bear that maybe we either haven't seen yet, it's part of another generation, or maybe it's gone extinct. Same deal for this big insect thing, which I believe appears in the episode about Gligaman. Gligaman doing its crime fighting. It might be that episode, it might be a different episode. But it's talking about this superhero who's fighting this giant insect creature. And this insect creature may just genuinely be a giant insect creature thing that is not actually a Pokemon of any kind. Or it's some unseen kind of arachnid Pokemon. There's this fish that Kabutops is digging into, and this is either an animal, because animals do exist in the world of Pokemon, or it's some kind of a Pokemon that's gone extinct as a result of being hunted by Kabutops. There's an interesting little totem thing, which I suspect is probably related to Claydol or Baltoy, because Claydol and Baltoy are inspired by these things in the real world, and these things are meant to depict actually almost alien-like creatures that are going to act as guardians. Well, there's one in the Pokemon world as well. Potentially, it's some kind of Baltoy Claydol form that was never brought to life, or maybe not. Maybe it's not got anything to do with anything. Maybe this is what aliens in the Pokemon world look like. Only we know that they don't. We know that aliens look like Deoxys, Jigglypuff, and Clefairy. Moving on, there is an episode where Misty talks about seeing a giant legendary fish Pokemon and chasing it. And this image could very well be some kind of prototype of Mega Gyarados. Granted, Mega Gyarados is not a legendary, although Mega Pokemon do have a sort of legendary stat boost. And given that at that time they didn't know what Mega Evolution was, maybe they had this kind of evolution in mind for Gyarados, this could very well have been the inspiration for that. There are some unknown letters that are yet to appear. Fingers crossed, I'm actually hoping these do show up in the game and maybe provide more of an answer as towards what the unknown actually are. There's a book in the third movie that shows a bunch of Pokemon. The sun god is either very clearly, it's either Solgaleo, because it's a sun god that's over a field of hibiscus flowers, and hibiscus flowers are like a Hawaiian thing. Hawaii, Alola, sun god, it's Solgaleo. Either that, or it could be a Volcarona. As for that, it appears that there may be another fairy legendary that we don't know about. And there's actually another page with weird ice pillars, but I don't know what kind of Pokemon that would represent. Maybe there is another big ice Pokemon out there that we don't know about. There's the Alto Mare pre-story to do with the Pokemon Heroes movie, and it is a visual representation. We literally cannot work out what kind of Pokemon this would be. There is a background gym statue that appears in Pokemon Origins. It also appears in Let's Go, and this could be some undiscovered Pokemon, or it's just some fearsome creature in the mythology of the Pokemon world. I would like to believe that this is some future Pokemon. There is a whale, which very clearly is a mammal. I don't think it's a Pokemon. I don't think it's a whale lord. I suspect that this whale is just an animal. It's just a whale, which is a mammal. There's a really cool Pokemon, and this is one of my favorite things. Pokemon did a competition where people had to create their own Pokemon, like a Fakemon competition, and someone won and it ended up on the front of a manga of, I think it was called Pikachu and Friends. This Pokemon is called Marin, and if I had to place it on the evolutionary tree, it would be a bony fish. But I would actually really love it if they made this Pokemon real. It would definitely be a water type, of course. Red, in one of the animes, catches a unnamed insect Pokemon, which of course would just be an arthropod, as well as a bunch of other creatures that you can't even really distinguish between in all the different jars. There is a creature called Venustoise in the show that was created by Ghastly. It's an illusion. It is not an evolutionary thing. There is not some evolution where Venusaur and Blastoise like crossbreeded and created this thing. It is an illusion created by Ghastly. Actually, That's the exact same deal with Mismagius that turns into a Mismagius form of Rayquaza. It is an illusion. There is a 3-headed legendary bird that is a science experiment gone wrong and not something that should be appearing on the evolutionary tree. There's the substitute doll, which I've thought a lot about. I think it just represents a generic Pokemon. Like, it has the same cheeks as Pikachu and all the different Pikachu clones. I suspect it is just representative of generic Pokemon. There are the original legendary beasts, the 3 Pokemon that perished in the fire of the 3 towers that became Raikou, Entei, and Suicune. These silhouettes appeared in Pokemon Origins, and I suspect that they are still representative of the evolutions and that the evolution theory holds up, and this is just a visual representation. Just my personal feelings, I might well be wrong. There's Vullaby and Mandibuzz who are carrying bones of other Pokemon. It could be a Cubone club, the skull could be something humanoid, but given that every single one of these Pokemon has it, maybe it's just the shape of the egg that they hatch out of. Or it's not actually wearing bones, it is literally part of its body, and it's a kind of armor plating on the bird, designed to look like bones to scare off predators. There is of course the complete dragon of Kyurem, Zekrom, and Reshiram combined. We have only ever seen 2 parts combined at once, but there is presumably an original dragon that has all 3 of these creatures in one. And I absolutely think if we ever revisit the Unova region, we will see this Pokemon. Genesect in the movie, it has its fossil. I presume that it was some kind of arthropod once upon a time, and that is where I would place it on the evolutionary tree if it wasn't something I would be considered to be man-made now. And in the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon series, there is Bitter Cold, Dark Matter, and some kind of Rust, and these seem to come from alternate dimensions. They exist, like, in space. I suspect that these Pokemon are from alternate dimensions, much like Ultra Beasts, and that's why they have wildly different forms that aren't really even Pokemon. In the same manga that depicted the weird Pokemon that Red caught, there's a couple of variants of regular Pokemon, like a Persian with 3 eyes. I guess these are just variants that exist in that version of reality of Pokemon, and not something, again, that I would put on the evolutionary tree. There is a mysterious creature with many faces that has been described in the Kalos folklore. This is a story that someone tells you. It's a horror story, and it could be just that, a horror story, or it could actually be referencing Zygarde that has the multiple things coming off of its hood, or even could be talking about the multiple cores that can be seen around Kalos. So potentially it's that. And finally, because we're going for some really obscure lore here, there is also Mecha Mewtwo. This is a Mewtwo that exists only in the stage show, and it's a robot, so it's man-made, but I'm not putting it on the evolutionary tree. And there you have it. That is the most obscure I can go. At this point, as of this episode coming out, I have now covered every single Pokemon, every single form, shiny Pokemon, gender variants, as well as every obscure Pokemon that isn't really a Pokemon, but I just wanted to cover it because I wanted to have covered every single base. And now, every episode from this point on, it should just be about new Pokemon. Whenever they're released, whenever they're announced, I'll be talking, of course, about where they fit on the evolutionary tree. So this is just a silly bonus episode. I hope you've enjoyed it. Let me know if you hadn't seen any of these before, because this is some of the most obscure bits of Pokemon lore. Only really hardcore fans are going to know about all of these. I certainly didn't know about all of these when I first found the articles on them. So yeah, let me know what you think. And if there's any other Pokemon things that I've missed that you think I should cover. And of course, soar high, Pokemon Masters. Now, after finishing this bonus episode and the last one, I've actually found a few more bonus Pokemon that could kind of fit in either episode that I just want to quickly mention. I'm really priding this series on mentioning absolutely everything. There are the many creatures from the Pocket Star Studios in the Unova region. These creatures, of course, aren't Pokemon, but they are battleable just like Pokemon. They are movie props. Xerneas and Yveltal have additional forms I've never really mentioned before, the Tree of Life and the Cocoon of Destruction. In this form, they are sort of Pokemon, but sort of not. There is, as of Let's Go Eevee and Pikachu, a special gender variant of Eevee that doesn't exist in any other game. Regular Eevee that you catch are not, the female ones do not have this love heart-shaped tail. Only the partner Eevee from Let's Go Eevee has this special tail. And finally, in the last part where I was covering all the different Pokemon forms, I was talking about a Groudon that Team Magma had created. They had created this Groudon using Jirachi's power, and the Groudon that they created wasn't really a Groudon, it was this mutant thing. Well, it turns out in the manga, they did the exact same thing for a Kyogre. This time created by Team Aqua, but yeah, this thing is a monster and definitely worth mentioning in this series. So hi, Pokemon Masters. Thank you so much to those who support me on Patreon right now. Links are in the description. Go ahead and sign up. There's a bunch of cool perks. And a massive thank you to those who have gone above and beyond this month. Yoni, Sobin, and Xavis. Thank you.